What's up, you guys? Evil here. I know it's been like a minute since I uploaded anything on the channel and stuff. I just been busy with random stuff and we're essentially working on my backlog. I know I'm pretty sure same thing goes for a lot of you out there that is in the hobby of collecting whatever comics, video games, manga, movies, all of the above. You eventually build yourself a little backlog, and I don't know. That's kind of like what I've been doing. I've been kind of trying to catch up on some the both games and comics and manga that I picked up over the months, and try to just actually read or play them, and not just pick them up and see which ones I actually like or which ones I want to keep, or maybe which ones I would like to sell or gift away to someone else so they can enjoy it, stuff like that. So essentially, that's what I've been doing. Some of the things I've been catching up. I caught up with all of Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man, uh, the most recent arc of Dragon Ball Super with Volume 24 when it came out. Just read through the whole arc of the superhero arc, and various other series that I picked up or gifted. I ended up like reading through. Some of them I did not like as much as I thought I would, so those would be an example of ones I might like sell or give away or whatever, But I also picked up started a couple series I have picked up over here, and I thought I might do a highlight of what I've been reading and which series is I started. That now that I caught up with some of the longer series is on my shelf, like Dragon Ball Super, One Punch Man, like Urusei Yatsura. I caught up all of that and various other titles over here. Um, but yeah, I've been also getting back into um, playing a lot more retro games and stuff like that. As you're aware of Sony's infamous announcement at this point of them planning to cancel physical games in the near future. So I've been getting back into a little bit more retro stuff. Like playing some GameCube games. I got this little LCD monitor both for the GameCube and the PS2 right here, PS2 Slim. So if Sony is planning to kill all physical games and just make it where it's like digital future only and stuff, then I'm not gonna get a whatever PS6 or invest in their PlayStation online services and all that nonsense and stuff. Yeah, like check this out, guys. I'm gonna power on these devices and you guys to see what it looks like. It's causing a little glare. There you go. The Punisher. This looks pretty sick, right? Crazy Taxi.
Hey, come on over, have some fun with Crazy.
You know, so if Sony is planning to go to this all digital future where they're gonna kill off physical games, no more discs, you know, I have no interest in buying a console where I can put like disc or play movies, you know, like outside playing video games, the big benefit of PlayStation consoles were its media player usage, like playing Blu-rays, or the PS5's case, playing the 4K Blu-rays, right? That's something unique with the PS5, what the PS4 couldn't do. So, so yeah, if they're going all digital box, then you know, I'm kind of checking out. I'll play with like my retro consoles and just invest in my older systems when you had the games on like disc or cartridges. You know, when I was growing up, we had video games that like went up to like freaking like almost $100 if not more. But difference, in my opinion, then and now, like those cartridges were like freaking tangible. You had a whole game inside those cartridges, where nowadays like PS5 games and Xbox games are essentially a game key card, just like the Switch 2. You know, it's just an access key. You only have like a, maybe in some cases it's like a percentage of the, small percentage of the game on the disc, and the rest you have to download. So like screw that. I'm like not really into that shit. So I'd rather just invest in older like systems, something more tangible, like buying. I rather invest in my money in like VHS, cheap VHS tapes or DVDs, things I could actually use if the internet ever decides to shut down. And you know, the case where like Sony also removed a lot of customers like digital movies from their like collection and stuff like that. That's why I'm never like into really buying like digital products, games or movies. If the movie comes with a digital code with the DVD or Blu-ray, yeah, that's one thing, you know, like that's cool. It's just something extra. I still have the physical disc, but where you're paying for just for like the digital copy, I don't see no profit as a customer. Profit for you know, the people selling you like Sony or whoever's selling you the like digital product, yeah, because you know, buying a license, you don't own anything. So anytime they lose a license, you're like, oh, you know, time's up. We're taking this away. You don't need it no more. And then they'll get the license back sometime in the future and try to sell it back to you. So like, yeah, I'm good with that. We live in an era where we have over like freaking 60 years of like video games. You know, there's so many video games and movies that you could like play or watch, and you'll never get to see the end of it. You know, so if the video game market just dies and crashes tomorrow, like personally, I'm good. You know, that's, you know, I don't really care about the new Grand Theft Auto or anything. I'm not gonna buy Grand Theft Auto 6 if it's just a code in the box. Screw that. But yeah. And I've been playing mostly some older video games, and I've been primarily playing my PS5 as a Blu-ray player, or playing Marvel Rivals on it. You know, I don't pay for the PlayStation Plus online services no more. And since they kept on, you know, it's too expensive. I'm like, screw that. And I would just play Marvel Rivals, which is free. I don't need the PS Plus service to play that game. And whatever single player game or whatever I get on disc, I'll get it like used from eBay or GameStop or whatever. I'm not gonna buy brand new games from Sony no more and stuff if this is the future just headed. So I'm good staying retro and wait for games to go on sale before I buy it. The last digital game I bought before they made this announcement was the Mortal Kombat 1 Definitive Edition, around the time when the movie was out, and it was on sale for like $20 for the digital copy, and I bought that just to, it was a cheap game. It had no physical option. I mean, it had the physical option, but no definitive edition physical option. So I did that, but yeah, no more. I'm not gonna buy no more digital games, or pay for the PlayStation Plus service. So I'm good off on that. But outside of that, I thought it would be fun to highlight some titles I did start reading, and I'll probably get a little setup on the table over there in a minute. So for the rest of the video, I thought it would be cool to just highlight a couple of titles that I just started reading and my thoughts of it, and stuff like that. Not really a review or anything, more like an initial impression. But yeah, let me get the book set up over there on the table, and I'll be back. What's up, guys? So I guess we'll start with Mobile Suit Gundam here. This is the current manga I've been currently reading. I didn't even finish the first volume of this deluxe edition right here. So myself, I have no history with Gundam. So I'm going in this series blind, without no prior knowledge, outside of seeing random episodes of one of the animes when I was younger, and some of my friends were really into buying the model kits and building those when we were younger and stuff like that. So I got this deluxe edition from eBay for around like $20. It was really cheap on sale. So yeah, I am a big fan of these deluxe edition mangas. I like the big form factor, even though I know it gets a little challenging to read sometimes in the comfortable positionings, like you don't always have a nice table and stuff. But yeah. So as a person who has no knowledge of Gundam and just going into the series blind, so I have yet to memorize everybody's names. I've only read a couple of chapters in so far. So the story takes place in some type of future where people of Earth flew out to space and started popularizing in space and having children and stuff, and eventually like two different fractions were created, and went into war with one another. Like one fraction lived farthest from the Earth or whatever and started colonizing, and then there was another fraction that was closer to the Earth. I think one was the Zeon forces and the other one was the Earth's Federation, right? So in this world, I'm noticing a thing with a lot of these mangas I'm about to talk about is in the future, with a messed up future. You have like mechs roaming around freely. You have people constantly going to war. You got like the army forces indoctrinating kids into the army, into the Federation, because I guess they could take whatever they could get, right? I don't know. I am digging the artwork. I'm digging the art style. I don't know. There's something about the older Gundam anime or animes that it just never pulled me in, But like reading the story in manga form, I don't know. To me, it was a lot more enjoyable to process, and then just take in like the artwork. As you can see, it's not super dialogue heavy. You have a lot of pages where it's like just panels and stuff. So it's really cool. I'm digging it. So over here you have the forces of the Federation. Here's like the old captain, and then at some point in the story he gets like taken out, like not killed but out of commission. He gets shot, and then you have this I don't know what we call him, a scientist or engineer, someone who develops like weapons and mechs and stuff. Anyways, so his son Amaru, who I guess is like the main protagonist of the story right here, one day he stumbles in that mobile suit, right? And because his dad works for the Federation, he's seen the blueprints of the Gundam of this thing on the cover. So he has like basic knowledge of it, and he ends up getting in the mobile suit, and he gets up in a little skirmish with these like Zeku bots, what they call them, right? And then here's the Gundam that Amaru gets into, the RX-7801, right? And then the first couple of chapters is Amaru getting the Gundam and just fighting these bots, and you know, some cool little action scenes and stuff. Eventually he gets in a little skirmish with this character Char, who is one of the elite commanders, or one of the superior officers, or whatever you want to call them, who represents the Xeon forces. Look at that. Awesome colored pages. Anyway, so he gets in a little skirmish, and then it's like, you know, Amaru is obviously, even though he has the Gundam, he's not as experienced as Char. I'm gonna try and like flip through the page where they're actually fighting. This guy, there you go. This is Char. He gets in a little fight with this dude, and then you know, you see him like sweating and struggling a bit because, you know, he's not used to combat or battle, even though he has the schematics of the Gundam that he's using and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't got far enough to the story to say if I'd like it or not like it. You know, like, it's only the first volume. I know this deluxe edition covers a lot of content, but I haven't obviously even read through the entirety of the first one. But I'm liking it so far. I'm curious where this story goes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have too much things to say about Gundam, you know? I just started the series, not knowing too much of what's going on in here, but yeah, I'm digging it so far. Hopefully it continues to be good. But next we have this fun little gag manga. Precarious Woman Executive Miss Black General. So this manga is kind of like a superhero parody type manga where the main character, Miss Black General right here, she is part of this organization called the RX organization, and they're basically trying to come up with, like, you know, ridiculously cartoonish organization schemes of like trying to take over the world. But most of the time, a lot of the stories revolve of the general obsessing over one of this universe's hero figure, Brave Man, who clearly looks like a parody Batman, right? And then at times, they, depending on the story, they sometimes team up and stuff. But the stories in here are gag focused, or they're like episodic. Is that the word? Episodic. It doesn't have like a deep, like ongoing narrative. Like the chapters are kind of like self-contained for the most part. There's some of them that there's some chapters that like are multi-part, like a Doctor Slump, like a Doctor Slump chapter, with like some chapters are multi-part. But for the most part, they're self-contained. Yeah, like stories where the general pulls out like schemes to attract Brave Man, or try to convince him to go on a date with her or something like that, or pull off some sort of like scheme to catch his attention, stuff like that. But then later on, you have other characters joining the organization, and then they'll introduce other like organizations, other villain organizations that would come conflicts with the RX group, and they would sometimes have to team up with like the heroes like Brave Man and such to go against a common goal, stuff like that. So you have like this Doctor Doom look-alike is the leader of the organization. For example, there's a bunch of goofy characters. This manga almost kind of like reminds me of watching like some sort of Adult Swim cartoon, like something really goofy, slapstick. I'm enjoying this series so far. I think it's only like 12 volumes long. I think I looked up on the internet. It was like 12 volumes long, so it's relatively short. So I'm curious to read more of this goofy, ridiculous story series. So I'm curious where this one goes. Not too much to say about this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of if you like superhero comics or gag manga or both, you might like this one. But speaking of superhero comics, I got over here Hero Man. So Hero Man is an interesting manga. This is one of those mangas that Stan Lee worked on with the Studio Bones, and the only other time I could think of, I think the most people are familiar with the other manga Stan Lee worked on, Ultimo, but this one is a unique case. It's one of those cases similar like Doctor Slump, where the manga came out in English, but the anime never had a Western release. So I don't understand the logic here. But Hero Man is a manga that focuses on this kid named Joey Jones, who lives with his grandma. He's a kid who gets not the most popular at school and stuff, gets bullied. One day he come across this action figure that at school that one of the popular kids had, and I guess misused it or whatever, and decided to throw it away. It got ran over by a car. Yeah, the action figure got ran over by a car, and and then this rich kid decides to, like, you know what, I don't want it no more. It's broken junk now. So he threw it away, and Joey over here ends up like picking it up out of the trash and decides to fix it up himself. So one day this figure gets struck by lightning or whatever and comes to life. And Joey and this figure that now is dubbed Hero Man start like playing a hero around the town, and then eventually the scientist who lives in this town, he makes contact with like aliens. I forget what it was called, the Scourge or something, and they do like an alien invasion in the town, and Joey, along with Hero Man, attempts to fight off the alien invasion that was initiated by the scientist over here, who initially got the contact with the aliens. So this is a unique take. There's only 5 volumes of this story in total, so it's not a super long manga. I'm interested to see where the story goes. I was a big fan of Stan Lee growing up. You know, I read a lot of Marvel comics, you know, like his early stuff, the Spider-Mans and X-Men's and some Fantastic Four. Excuse me, I sneezed. So I like the artwork. You know, I want to see how this story concludes. If it's something that I'm gonna like, or if it's something that I might donate or sell in the future if it ends up not being that interesting. But I'm a fan of Stan Lee's works in general, so I don't know. That's the only reason why I even picked this up. You know, just because I was curious of what kind of story this is and stuff. I mean, and Stan Lee himself appears in the story a couple of times as a character who like orders coffee and stuff at let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, here he is. There's Stan Lee. He's a character in this manga who orders like coffee at the diner that Joey works at. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Next manga. Alright, next we got Kirby Manga Mania. This is also another gag manga, but it focuses on Kirby, of course, obviously. And with this series, similar to the Super Mario Kun manga that came out a while back with an English release, where it was like a collection of stories, you know, like just like the greatest hits of the Mario Kun collected in one volume. Kirby basically with this manga gets a very similar treatment in the Manga Mania, where the stories collected are like the best of and no particular order, right? So, but only difference here is where Mario only got like one release. Kirby, I guess, was popular enough that at this point has gotten multiple. I think there's like 8 or 9 of these now out officially. So what we have here is like a collection of short stories, feature Kirby and the characters, you know, like going on the wacky adventures and stuff like that. You know, like this is not like, you know, it's a gag manga. It's not something like you gotta read for like something really in depth or you know, deep lore or something like that. This is something you read for like Looney Tunes slapstick comedy and stuff like that. So that said, the stories and the humor is going to vary from uh, chapter to chapter, but the stories are collected here in the various volumes following. I think I read at least like 2 or 3 of these now. Are really fun and enjoyable, and I had a good chuckle on some of them and stuff. Like the very first story here, you had like King Dedede trying to throw like a little gathering so he could watch the cherry blossoms and stuff like that, and he was trying to avoid Kirby from joining the party because he has a habit of eating everything. So like at one point, King Dedede started like chucking random things at Kirby. You know, like right here, he starts chucking random things at him, and then one of the things he throws is loopy juice, and then you have like Kirby over here getting belligerent and being obnoxious and start like singing karaoke and annoying people. But then later on, he like it ends up sobering up, realizes what he did, and he ends up turning himself into the cherry blossom tree himself, and the party continues and such. Or you have another one where like King Dedede becomes like mistreats this little wizard character and turns him into like a toy, and he has to be treat somebody like the genuine kindness in order him turning back to normal, like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. So he goes to Kirby and tries to be kind to him, and then eventually he turns back to normal. There's another story in one of the other books where Kirby plays like a retro Game Boy, Kirby on the Game Boy. He plays it and he turns into retro Kirby, and then everyone's all freaking out, like why is he like looks this way, and tries to figure out a way to turn him back to manga Kirby. So I'm really liking this this manga. It's like a nice thing to read in between reading other things. You know what I mean? So I'm really having fun with the Kirby manga, and I'm down. I'm down to see what other wacky stories this series contains. Look, so adorable. Everything's all like cutesy. I don't know. Everything's drawn all cutesy and adorable, but some of the content in there is like it has some adult humor in there. Some adult jokes. So it's a really interesting read. I'm really having fun with this. I definitely recommend this one if you're a Kirby fan or like a slapstick gag manga fan. Alright, next we got Fist of the North Star. This is an older series from back in the day. This is a series that I always wanted to check out, but I just never got around doing so. And I just got an excuse to do it now because the main character of Kenshiro has been integrated in the latest Fatal Fury game as a playable character. So this gave me an excuse to finally check out the series and see if it's something I would enjoy reading, and I have so far. So this book takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. Like I would say it's like a fusion between Bruce Lee and Mad Max, where the character of Kenshiro fights kind of like an exaggerated version of Bruce Lee, as well as like dressed up as like Mel Gibson from Mad Max. But yeah, so essentially the story takes place in this Mad Max type world where the main protagonist Kenshiro goes like town to town and beating up random bandits, bad guys, killers, such, protecting older people, children alike, and anyone else who can't defend themselves, essentially, because Kenshiro is such a good dude and humble dude. He just steps in for people who can't like defend himself, you know. So, but what Kenshiro does, he has this. He's a master of this unique combat style where he takes advantage of a person's pressure points, and he just hits him in unique spots of the body, and have that person just explode from the inside out. So it's like kind of fun to see all the creative ways that Kenshiro could take out people, but he doesn't only utilize these pressure points to like take out people. He also uses this to help people. Like there's this little girl he befriends that is unable to talk, and Kenshiro uses little pressure point system to like help her like talk again and stuff. You know, like because like Tonoko Shinken could do anything apparently. Like you know, and then later on in this volume, Kenshiro ends up running to one of his rivals, Shin, and then we learn a little bit more of a backstory of how Kenshiro essentially became a wanderer, and why he doesn't stay in one place for too long, because he's a type of guy that goes around and beats a big dude and then causes tension, and then stuff like that. But yeah, like I'm loving the fights, the wacky characters in this book. You know, there's this big dude right here that kind of like has the powers like the Blob from the X-Men, where he's able to absorb like all sorts of like impact and stuff. So like Kenshiro usually doing his attacks, his normal attacks don't really work on him like such an example. And then so there's like, oh, here it is. So then Kenshiro busts out like the Chung Li kicks. You know, I am convinced that Chung Li got these kicks from Kenshiro. To build up like levitation, whatever, and he just like kills him. You know, like because this guy was absorbing so much impact, so he does the Chung Li kicks to essentially warm up his belly, and then give like a opening for his Kenshiro's pressure points to go through, and yeah. You know, I don't want to ramble too much about the story right now, but I am liking it so far. I definitely want to get more of the volumes and continue on and see where this goes. So, yeah. Next we have Full Metal Alchemist. I got the Full Metal edition, which is in a similar form factor as the Fist of the North Star book. Like, unlike Fist of the North Star, I'm actually aware of Full Metal Alchemist. I watched both the original and Brotherhood anime back in the day. So I am aware of the series and the characters already so. But I have never really dedicated myself of reading the manga from beginning to end before, and this was my attempt of doing it finally. I used to have the older editions, the Tankibons of Fullmetal Alchemist. Not all of them, but at least half of it. But I never got around reading it, and I ended up gifting those away. So I ended up picking up the first couple of volumes of the Full Metal edition. And I'm really enjoying it so far. If you have never consumed Full Metal Alchemist before, it's essentially about these two brothers named the Elric brothers, and then one day they lost their mother, and they try to use alchemy to resurrect their mother back, but then but it ended up backfiring, where instead of resurrecting their mom back, Edward, the older brother, the Full Metal Alchemist, ended up losing his arm and leg, while his younger brother Alphonse ended up losing his entire body, and his soul was kind of like stuck into this armored suit, that you see he's in for majority of the story. So the Elric brothers, for a good chunk of the story, they kind of go like town to town looking for this thing called the Philosopher's Stone, and try to find a way to essentially get their bodies back. Especially Alphonse, because Edward feels guilty about Alphonse being stuck in this armor suit. So they go around town to town trying to figure out a way to get their bodies back, and they encounter various people along the journey. Like over here, they go to this church where this pastor is using this ring to grant miracles for the townsfolk, and then Edward believes this might be a philosopher's stone, so he ends up going to this town and encountering this priest essentially, and learning that the stone is a fake, and he's essentially making fake miracles. Along the story, you'll also encounter like the homunculus and various other antagonists like Scar and General Bradley and stuff like that. But within this first chapter, first volume, you go through you get introduced to lust and gluttony to the homunculi, out of the what was it, like 5 of them, right? But reading through this story again, it's kind of like unlocking forgotten memories, like, oh, I remember this. Oh, so that's what happened, stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying Full Metal Alchemist and this Full Metal edition. I definitely want to get some more and continue reading the series. Here you go, the Tucker chapter where he turns his daughter into a freaking dog. Now this character is the worst father of all anime. For those people that want to criticize Goku, this monster is definitely the worst father figure of all anime and manga. So the community better get that shit checked. Like, who turns his own child into a fucking chimera? That's messed up. But yeah, I'm definitely liking the series. I love the series. I'm definitely having fun revisiting it. I can't wait to collect more volumes so I could continue reading it. I already read through the first 4 because I have the first 4 volumes. So yeah, Full Metal Alchemist. Never read it? Go add this to your collection. It's a must read. So next we had the Bat manga. Out of all the DC and Marvel takes on manga, I think this was my personal favorite ones of all the ones I read so far, and the one I enjoyed the most. this manga, I guess, was created back in the '60s. Then the hype of the Batmania, the popularity of the Adam West show in the '60s, and this manga is like a nice blend of like dark storytelling and campiness. It's not too campy like the Adam West show, and it's like not too dark like Dark Knight Returns or whatever. But this take on Batman or Robin is unique. I like the art style. It looks like old school art style, like Astro Boy or Lupin, like the old school like manga style, which I really enjoy. In this series, Batman and Robin, take on unique villains that they normally don't take on in the normal Batman comics, like your Jokers and your Penguins and Two Faces and stuff. Instead, you have like the Faceless Phantom, the Lord Deathman. You have a unique take on Clayface that's in these stories, but it's not the same Clayface from the regular Batman stories. So you have like this faceless phantom character, or Dr. Faceless, that steals this doctor's identity and goes around committing crimes using this doctor's identity that was caught up in some sort of lab accident. And Dr. Faceless kidnaps him. This doctor right here, he kidnaps him and tricks Batman and Robin, thinking that the professor is the man committing all the crimes. So therefore, like, he could just committing as like, oh, I just went crazy because of the experiment or whatever. So yeah, so there's, I don't know, I just had a lot of fun reading through these wacky Japanese Silver Age Batman adventures. Like, it's really cool and a really unique take. Over here, you have a man who essentially is like a human bouncing ball. He makes a suit that allows him to like bounce around like a rubber ball, and and he gets like the best of Batman, his first encounter of him, and then Batman's like, sorry, I'm having a hard time turning these pages while holding the camera. But Batman's like, we got humiliated by some guy named the Human Ball. I don't know. And a lot of these stories are, Batman actually does actual detective work for a change, where he like trying to come up with solutions of like the mystery behind these characters' abilities, and like how they're like unique power sets, and what their what's the word here, what their gimmick is and how to overcome it. So yeah, this is definitely a great Batman story for Batman fans to check out. And there's only three volumes of this, so I highly recommend this if you're like a classic Silver Age Batman fan. The Batman manga. Next, we got Baki the Grappler. This is a story that was been recommended to me by a handful of people, and I'm honestly, based off this first volume alone, I'm really enjoying it so far. The story takes place, or stars, this kid named Baki, this 17-year-old boy who wants to be the strongest martial artist in this world, and he enters this fighting tournament to essentially test his skills with some of the strongest fighters out there, at least in this underground fighting tournament. I'm enjoying this manga so far. The protagonist of Baki is pretty like the chill dude, kind of likable character. Uh, I'm really interested of where the story goes. I'm a person who really enjoys kung fu movies and stuff like that. So like having a manga based on like martial arts is usually my thing. But like obviously that doesn't mean that I enjoy every single martial arts based thing. You know, I'm pretty selective. You know, that's be really compelling um, and engaging for me to get sucked in. And so far, Baki has kept me engaged from the chapters that I read so far, and I'm really I really want to check out more of the story and see where it goes. I've ordered more volumes. I have 2 and 3 currently that I'm gonna like read through next, probably after I finish that Gundam volume over there. So I'm pretty excited to see where the story goes and what more unique characters pop up just based on this one volume that I read so far. Look at this dude. Look at this kid. He's all like freaking jacked and stuff. But yeah, so Baki the Grappler, dope series. Can't wait to consume more. Next we'll talk. Yeah. So the last title I started reading was Mujina Into the Deep. So with this title, I got pretty selective on where I flip the pages because that's a lot of hyper violence and explicit content in this title. So, but this is a action-based story that also takes place in some apocalyptic world where we follow our main character over here, Ubumi, who is a Mujina. And in this world, people, there's like a class system that like the people who have like human rights and stuff like that could live normal lives and go around and shop and live in normal houses and stuff like that. But then you have like these people who are Mujina, who basically have no rights and kind of live outside the system. So they could even technically go and murder somebody, and they won't be technically uh, allowed to like take to court because technically they don't exist. You know, stuff like that. So these Mujina end up becoming like kind of like ninja assassins for hire. So since because they have no rights, they kind of have to do like whatever it takes to make money, and usually becomes of that usually ends up being an assassin for hire. So the characters in this world could like sell away their rights to like make money and stuff like that and become like an outcast. And who knows what the people who buy these rights from people and what they do with them. I haven't got that far in the story to know what they actually do with these people's rights once they like buy them off, you know, or if they end up selling one person right they buy off and then they sell it to another person to like an auction, like, oh, we have this guy's ID that you could use this guy's identity, you know, something like that. But I'm really liking the series so far. The action is cool, the artwork is dope, and it's pretty intense. The characters are pretty likable. Ubumi's likable. She goes from this lonely assassin character archetype to eventually making friends and you know, and like living with this older gentleman um, what was his name? Tasumi or something? I forget his name. He's like a video game developer who gets interested of the Mujinas and their lifestyle, and he kind of has like, I don't want to say pity, more like a soft spot for some of these individuals who are being treated like outcasts, like lesser beings and stuff like that. So he lets Ubumi and a couple other characters, like this gentleman right here, is the video game designer that I was talking about. The ends up adopting Ubumi and a couple other characters, and they start living together like a family unit, and then looking for each other's backs and stuff like that. So like I'm liking this story so far. I never have read any of Inyo Asano's works in the past before. I am told they're a lot different from this. This is his first time supposedly doing some type of action series, which I'm liking so far, and it's making me curious of his other works, if it's as good as this, or if this is considered not as good and his other stuff is better. I don't know, but I'm enjoying this so far, and I'm really interested of where the story takes and what kind of characters. I picked up the first 3 volumes already. I don't know how many volumes this series is in total, or if it's still ongoing or not, but I'm definitely hooked on this one, and it's definitely a story I would recommend to you guys if you want to check this out. But I do again have to give the warning that this ain't no Naruto and One Piece, and there's a lot of mature content and topics that they go through, like prostitution and human trafficking and stuff like that. But if that kind of stuff doesn't bother you, then yeah, like check this one out. I think you would enjoy Mujina Into the Deep. But that said, that's all the titles I've been reading so far, or I'm currently reading so far. I would like to know what stories or what video games you guys been playing or reading, and leave a comment below, or what do you recommend me to check out in the future. I gotta be honest, with some of the stuff I've read these last couple of months that I thought I might like, that I thought it was just maybe okay. There's some of those stuff I might like sell or get rid of or whatever in the future, or unhaul. But with these stories, these ones I really enjoy, and I really want to continue on and see where the story takes me. But that's it for this video. I'll see you guys next time on another video. Until then, evil out. Peace.